It's officially good morning. Welcome, Jonathan, to Agritech and access to international markets. Welcome, patients. I know you are traveling, so welcome. We are happy to receive Jonathan on this platform. Jonathan, long time no see.
Nice to see you.
Jonathan, I think let's get straight into the discussion. Please, can we let the viewers or people that are going to view this recording post our discussion who Jonathan is and where are you based? Where is home? And I think let's start there.
Okay, that's a very good question. Home for me is where I happen to be. I'm a rather unusual person that I have no sense of nationality. I consider myself a citizen of the world. So I'm Jonathan Woods. I'm 69 years old. I live in France. That's where I'm based right now. And I am basically retired from a career in international marketing and communication, but active in working with entrepreneurs and startups, both in Europe and in Africa. I'm very interested in Africa because I applaud the positive attitude to the future, the youth, and the emancipation from so much which has limited Africa in the past. So if I can contribute to that to a small degree, I'm going to be very happy.
I'm going to ask you something that I should have told you before. Can you please, if you may, greet our French-speaking Africa, just for them to feel comfortable. We are privileged to have you because you speak French. And if you can greet them, it will be very nice.
Mais bien sûr, donc bonjour tout le monde, je suis ravi d'être là. Sachez que je tiens particulièrement à ce que les divisions linguistiques, les divisions entre les anglophones, les francophones, voire même les hispanophones et les lussophones, s'amenuisent le plus en plus en Afrique parce que ces divisions ne servent pas la cause d'une Afrique unifiée et dynamique. Voilà.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We appreciate. Patience, would you like to say something?
Good morning, everyone. And I am really just so pleased to be here, and especially on this platform with Jonathan. Jonathan is somebody that I have really admire a lot because of what he does, especially working with SMEs in Africa and also in Europe. The passion he puts in whatever he does when it comes to Africa is just mind-blowing. So I appreciate that, and it's really just an honor to sit and just listen to him speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Patience. I think people that are watching, like last Tuesday, they will be very happy to see Patience today speaking and having Jonathan here. And you'll forgive me, Jonathan, once you've said something that I think is very interesting, I'm just going to again pull one wisdom hair out of your head and say, please say it in French if you don't mind. But let's continue. We've got a topic that we've promised that we're going to address on access to international markets and basically in the agritech space. I think it's very important that we cover certain other aspects before we get to the topic, because there is no business without first grooming or coaching and mentoring people that are entrepreneurs. If you can share with us, Jonathan, I know you've got wisdom, you've been there. Looking at the resume and many other one or two engagements that I've had with you, you are pro development of young people. Please, can you just share with us from a developmental mentorship coaching perspective that leads to a fully fledged entrepreneur? what must we go? How must we go about achieving that? And then I'll ask other questions as we go.
Okay. Well, it seems to me we're living in the beginning of the 21st century. It's a time in which we've all got the tools of internet, which was not really available when I started my career. And in Africa, there's so much that can be done now, working in a connected basis between continents, between countries, to create value and to build the economy. So entrepreneurs need to think in a much broader context today when they start than what they might have done before. And what I try to do is to challenge entrepreneurs about what their objectives are and where they're going, and are they taking the steps now to anticipate where they're going later on. So this might be initially somebody who wants to start a business in agriculture and is thinking of selling to local markets, but really to grow their business and to get where they want to be in terms of professional satisfaction and lifestyle. They may need to consider working outside of their country and exporting. I think the other thing that is very interesting is one of my key interests is access to electricity. There are many parts of Africa which still don't have access to electricity, and many of those villages live from agriculture. And so the efficiency of how they produce is limited until they can get electricity to pump water, to do drip irrigation. And for their children in remote villages, there is this risk of a digital divide being set up, because the kids in Cape Town or in Lagos or in Abidjan or in Dakar learn the internet and play video games just as fast as kids in New York or Paris or Shanghai. The difficulty is that when you live somewhere where there's no electricity, and perhaps you have a big brother who's got a mobile phone, but he's very worried about the running down the charge, kids don't have the same opportunity to learn and play with the digital tools early on. So I think that in terms of social and economic aspects, the context for fostering entrepreneurs, the access to electricity and to clean energy is really important. So in addition to supporting entrepreneurs, I've co-founded a small company in Cameroon to develop renewable energy in that country. And I'm looking at opportunities right now also in Senegal, where there's quite a bit of demand for electrification of rural communities.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Thank you very much. You've mentioned a few things, connectivity being one of them. There are talks right now on connectivity, that everyone must be connected to participate in the digital space. The challenges of not having the gadgets, of not having connectivity. But you've raised one important point. Connectivity without electricity, it's not possible.
Yeah, that's right.
Now we are sitting in a unique position where in Africa we're saying people must be connected to the digital world, but there's no electricity. So in terms of energy resources, I know you're working the energy a lot. What do you suggest? Because depending on electricity from the grid, it's a challenge. What do you suggest, and what can be done to ensure that people have got access to electricity?
Okay, it seems to me that throughout Africa, the existing infrastructure to transmit and distribute electricity has been inherited from the former colonizers from Europe.
Yeah.
And the architecture of the distribution networks is based on the way energy is produced in Europe, which is coal or gas or nuclear energy, or maybe hydro in big dams up in the Alps. So in Europe, the production of energy is necessarily centralized, and then the distribution infrastructure comes from that. Today, with the focus on renewable energy, and particularly in Africa, a new paradigm can begin. In other words, you have got in Africa sunlight, strong sunlight everywhere, every day. And so sun energy is free. And so, in fact, each village can be a producer and a consumer at the same time. So it seems to me the best way forward to address the issue of connectivity and providing people with energy is to build mini grids in each village, and then to connect them, and then to go back up to the national network and connect that. Now that's got certain difficulties that need to be addressed, but it's a much more sustainable, resilient model than saying we have a limited number of very large central energy generation facilities, and then we push that energy wherever it needs to go. So I kind of compare the new way that I'm suggesting a bit to the internet. Everyone can be a producer of content and a consumer of content. In the same way, throughout Africa, everyone can produce energy and consume it. Now, you've got today what you call smart meters, which means that you can count, you can meter the energy you consume coming in, but you can also meter the energy out from your home or from your business towards the grid. And the accounting for that is fairly straightforward and simple. But of course, in all countries, large organizations have got a certain amount of sclerosis, and nobody likes something that's new. And so I find that utilities in Africa are hesitant to move in that direction. But in throughout Africa, I mentioned solar, but you've got in agricultural communities a huge opportunity for biomass, for producing gas to cook with, to produce gas to make turbines work, to produce electricity at nighttime when the sun is not shining. But you've also got water courses where you can put a turbine in, and if the water courses don't dry up in certain times of the year, you've got a constant source of energy that can complement solar. So I'm very much in favor of a mix of sources of renewable energy in a decentralized model for Africa. There we go.
Thank you very much. You've mentioned something very interesting. You're saying agriculture, we can use agricultural products or what remains from what is tradable from agriculture as commodities to create gas, basically, or create ways of making or ensuring that there's electricity. Do you think, with your exposure to Africa, do you think that that technology can be locally produced or grown out of Africa?
Yes.
Or the relationship between Africa and EU is very important to ensure that that skill is passed on, and then people will be able to self-sustain and self-maintain and develop?
Yes, I mean, it all comes back to sunlight. You've got powerful sun that makes plants grow. And I would say to boost agriculture and to boost production of goods you can sell, and also of the residue from agriculture, which is used for biomass, the key is water. So having a solar installation to begin with can help you pump water from the ground, In most places, you can find, if you drill deep enough, access to an aquifer. And that water can then be stored and used for drip irrigation to increase the productivity of what's produced, and also to make machinery run that can transform the produce into value-added goods to sell. If we take peanuts, for example, you might make peanut paste by milling it locally rather than selling the peanuts in the market. But any number of things with maize, you can produce that and process it locally if you've got access to power. But the residues, all of the agricultural waste, is indeed a source of energy to be used to produce gas, which can either cook or to make a turbine run at nighttime. And then finally, the residue that comes out from the biomass production is a very good fertilizer for the fields. The same is true in a circular economy model. If you put latrines in villages and use the sludge in addition to agricultural waste, then you've got a rich base of material to produce biogas. And as I said before, the residue from producing biogas is a very, very fertile fertilizer that goes in the fields again. So it comes back to the circular economy, using the sun that produces plants that can power solar panels and water courses to power what needs to be powered.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna take a, thank you very much, John. We're gonna take a jingle. Then afterwards, we're gonna concentrate on entrepreneurship.
Good.
Yes, good morning again. We are connecting from Jonathan from France. Jonathan is one of those people that I can comfortably say he's got wisdom in the commercial or business environment. Jonathan has been, for those people who missed this portion part, has been in business for many years. I'm not going to mention his years, but it suffices to say he's got wisdom. Jonathan is very active in ensuring that the youngsters or the youth get empowered. The youth are mobilized basically to ensure that they grow and have a contribution to their societies or the economy in a positive way. As we all know, and I'm going to ask this thing to Jonathan, that Jonathan, Africa is got over 62% of youth. There's some countries worldwide where there's a shortage of youth. I know Europe has got a fair share of youth as well. What would you say as we go into the future? Would you recommend that youth must go entrepreneurial direction, or youth must still depend, like at the 20th century, on completing school and going to look for work?
Okay, I think that in this 21st century, the life pattern, the professional framework for developing your livelihood is going to change a lot. First of all, we know that knowledge is increasing very fast. And so concentrating all your learning at the beginning of your life and then having a period of working and then retiring is no longer the proper model. So people will have to learn throughout their professional career. And likewise, I think that many people will have periods of being entrepreneurs, have an entrepreneurial activity, perhaps work for an employer, a small, medium, or large company also. But as an entrepreneur, many people will have to work serving larger companies as a service provider or a technology supplier and so on. So the world of larger companies and the what was in the past an informal part of the economy of entrepreneurs are merging more and more. And so I think it's really important for young people to understand that it's not necessarily a forced choice between being an entrepreneur or working for a company in a way in which perhaps their parents were used to. It's a career strategy that you need to develop and deploy.
Thank you. Do you, with your travels into Africa and worldwide, do you think our youth is ready, is digitally ready? Can we have youth that are concentrating on technopreneurship? Agritech, it needs also to be, an individual must be a technopreneur. If you look at energy, installing or coming up with solutions, how to monitor electricity, distribution of electricity, distribution of water, everything, it needs youth to be digitally equipped.
Absolutely. Well, I think that what is very, very impressive is how well trained and how alert and curious so many young Africans are throughout the continent. I would say what distinguishes for me youth in Africa from Europe and United States or North America is that in Europe and North America, there is a certain anxiety about a world that's changing and leaving them behind. I think that people are afraid here of China, of Russia, of all kinds of changes that are going to lead to people having a more fragile social and political framework. I think in Africa, people have lived with uncertainty, with political and social upheavals, and I think resilience is the quality that stands out most. So there's a great flexibility and a desire to move forward, which is very applaudable. On the other hand, I think that in the educational system throughout Africa, perhaps the emphasis is a bit too much on learning how to do things and not learning how to be. In other words, in terms of learning how to be, is forming relationships with people in other cultures, interacting, being able to take a step back from your own framework and understanding the framework of your supplier or your customer, and to be able to work on that basis. But it's not a lot, and so I think that I'm completely convinced at the end of this decade, the position of African economies in the world economy is going to be completely different. And we see the premises of that in all sorts of discussions and articles about the importance of the resources and of the youth as a resource within the world economy.
I think, thank you very much. Well said. I've said when we started that you've got vast experience in entrepreneurship, you've got vast experience in mentoring and looking after startups, and you are an advocate of people starting up companies and running them efficiently and ensuring that they succeed. One of the things that we had said we're going to discuss was basically strategies on founding or starting companies in the agric business.
Yeah.
And basically having small companies or startups mushrooming everywhere in Africa. Can you guide us on individuals that are listening, youth that want to see or become entrepreneurs? What must they consider when they want to start an entity or a company in the agricultural space? And what must they do, covering aspects like how important collaboration is? And I'm going to say I'm making emphasis on collaboration and interlinkages with different other countries and different people, in that, these days you can't start a business on your own as an individual and understand all aspects. Can you walk us through and say, if I want to start a business tomorrow in the agritech space, or energy space, what do I need to do?
Okay, I think it's a pretty common and universal psychological fact that an entrepreneur at the process in which they're thinking about what business they want to do are really thinking about themselves and in reinventing themselves and who they are and who they want to be. And that's very important. The motivation, understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are fundamental. But what's really important is when you start to choose the business you want to go into, is to understand who are the customers you want to serve. Very often people say, I like this product, or I've got this technological idea and I want to do it. And they want to push it to the market. It's really important to ask the question, why would the customers to whom I want to sell give me their money instead of spending the money on with somebody else on a different product or the same product or service from somebody else? So very early on, you've got to look for differentiation and added value and singularity in building your business proposition. And I think the other thing is that it's always important to anticipate and to have some kind of business plan where your different growth steps are identified in advance. What you do when you're selling to customers in your immediate community and you've not got many of them is quite different than when you start and tripling and quadrupling your production or your output, and you need to employ people and you need to find new customers and meet the new standards. All of that is quite bewildering when you haven't anticipated. So I would encourage young Africans in agriculture to think ahead, to consider what products, what agricultural products have got a real market demand, both locally in their own city or community, but beyond, within the national sphere, within the international sphere in Africa. And this is where what Patience does comes in as well, in considering how they might export to Europe. In discussing with Patience about this, we've noticed that many African entrepreneurs in agriculture are aware that The organic label is something that can justify a higher price, and fair trade also certificates are important. But these aren't things you can just stick on your ag product and immediately there it is. There are certification processes that guarantee to the consumer that what you're saying is true. So it's the same with pesticides, with fertilizers, with all of the things that you do in your agricultural process. You need to consider that if you want to sell to an international market, there may be requirements you need to meet and justify. So this linkage, being connected with other people outside of your country, is important for packaging. For instance, it may well be that you've got a very good infrastructure locally to grow goods, but packaging them may require you to turn to suppliers outside of your country, and so on and so on. So I think very quickly the young African agricultural entrepreneur will need to have relationships with customers and suppliers outside of their zone of comfort or their zone of knowledge. And so that's what's important to anticipate.
Thank you.
A little bit.
Yes, Patience, as if you've read my mind. Patience, can you add from an EU perspective? How do you, from an EU perspective, complement what Jonathan basically does, and from an EU perspective, dealing with Africa, what do you have to offer, and what guidance is you giving to complement all the things that Jonathan is saying?
In fact, Jonathan, you have really been saying just these amazing things, and I've really been listening also with passion. So there are so many other points that you touched that I just wanted to highlight a little bit. One is that of the energy deficit. So technology has really advanced so much, and Africa is a lot behind. And there is only one reason for that, and that is because of this energy deficit. There is no electricity, as you rightly said, and any tech that has to be introduced to Africa will really not have that much impact because it requires power. So the first point of call will be energy technology. So you really articulated that really very well. Because with this energy, we need it for processing. Say, for example, if you want to even export, say, avocados, you have to preserve the avocado so that it doesn't get ripened on the way. And you need electricity to be able to do that, just as simple as that. So you see, energy is at the center of everything you need to do. Even when you want to do e-commerce platform to sell your product, you also need this electricity to be able to connect even to your computers, to your cell phone, and things like that. So that was really a very important point that you make mention of. And this is also what I try to talk with EU tech companies, that when you want to bring your technology to Africa, you have to make sure that there is electricity. Otherwise, you come with technology that doesn't require electricity. So you have to think about that. So when it comes to youth, as I said also last week, when you see our educational system, it is really impossible for the government to provide maybe 6 million jobs every year for the new graduates. So we have to think things otherwise. Like, how do we go about this right now? The educational system shouldn't be training people to be job seekers, but instead job creators. And you see, we have this advantage of being this agricultural continent in the world, where so many people are involved in this particular aspect. This is maybe something you can consider, because when I see with other continents or other youths in maybe India, in Latin America, they choose a particular aspect where they want to really concentrate their effort in, be it technology, be it whatever. So Africa can also choose that path. And then as an entrepreneur, you have to look at what you will bring to the table, not only how the government can help you. Of course, people will say, how do I go about that? I want to start a business. I don't have the funds. I don't have the connection, and I don't really have much knowledge. The first thing, as Jonathan said, you have to do your market research. Try to find out which solution you want to bring to which problem, and find out also even whether people are even looking for this solution in the first place. Because it will be very disappointing for you to design this amazing technology, and at the end of the day, nobody needs it. You must have wasted your time and energy for something that is not really required. So you have to really do that market research, and you have to take upon yourself the commitment to really engage in that business, because success begins with yourself. It's how you position your mind that I have to succeed. Business comes with risk. At times it works well, at times it doesn't. If it doesn't work well, do you give up? Do you then say, okay, this is the end of the journey for me? No. You pick yourself up, learn from the mistakes, and then move ahead. So that is actually what I want to really encourage the youth. And when I look at the youth in Africa, oh my God, they are really very dynamic, very energetic, very inquisitive, and very, very hardworking. These are then the type of people that is really just so easy for them to understand this technology, and also to teach also their elderly counterpart in the agricultural space on how to go about this. So we really depend on them for to turn around the position of Africa, especially in the global market. And I really strongly believe that they are really also working towards that, but then they also need a little bit of support, maybe in terms of policy that can facilitate that for them, as well as also maybe subsidy from the government or even guidance in, because the essence is not only what to do, but how to do it, because that is where the action lies. Thank you.
I just need to ask you a question. You're talking about policy, you're talking about the youth being dynamic, but from an EU perspective, are you looking at, or are you able to ensure in this engagement that you guys are building with Africa that there's going to be a skills transfer to the youth?
Actually, this is, I of course, and all it also depends on the skills that the youth actually do require, and in which sector and in which space. For example, if you are talking about import export, like trade, that is where I come in, and also technological transfer. I know African companies also, they have their own technology, but what I really strongly encourage is always this collaboration between EU and AU, because honestly speaking, there are certain things that African really do have that Europe needs. And there are also certain things that Europe have that African needs. So together, I strongly believe that no continent is an island, or nobody is an island. You need people to collaborate with. So if Europe, for example, can come in with, say, technology, market access, or seeds input at a reduced price, and then African comes in with labor, the land, to be able to grow a particular crop that you can later sell to Europe. You see that this particular aspect has a component of the two continents in it. And this is really what I encourage. And also the skills, of course, like when you want to export to Europe, I know there are certain requirements that you need, as Jonathan rightly said. And that is also why, together with our team, we came down to design this training program where we'll be able to guide this youth or all these small businesses, startup or medium, how to export to Europe based on the requirements of the or the policy that governs exporting to Europe, or also based on buyers' requirement. Will you be able to adjust your product a little bit? Say, for example, as Jonathan made mention of packaging, maybe you are packaging something in 4 kilos, 10 kilos. If somebody wants it for you to package it in 1 kilo, will you be able to do that? Whereas you are fond of doing it for 5 or 10 kilos. And the packaging material, will you be able to substitute it for this instead of that? So these are the type of things that we want to really impact, and then so that people really just know what to do, why they are doing it, and most importantly, how to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. This one I'm going to ask Jonathan, and if he can also, when he responds, if he can also say it in French. Mr. Woods, me and you met at an event that was there to ensure that entrepreneurs become very competitive, and only those that are competitive and they know what they're looking for, they've got a well planned, they've got a vision, they've got a mission, they know what the mandate of their business is, why they've come up with a solution. And it was a very interesting entrepreneurial competition. Would you Would you do that again? Would you be part of such a competition, or would you arrange with, in partnership? I know I've not asked Patience this. Would you partner with people like or entities like Eurotech House, and have that competition in the agritech space? Is that something that you do? And if you would, what do you need between, we all sitting here, between PITA and Euro AfriLink, and Patience' role and influence in the EU?
Okay.
What would you?
Okay, that's a lot of things to answer, but I understand what you're aiming for. I think that the key in organizing these competitions and these coaching frameworks is that ultimately you can impart knowledge and motivation and skills. There comes a time when people need to get finance. And my perception is that in many of these initiatives, at the beginning, there is a promise, finance or access to financial institutions or funding entities will be there, and too often that tends to evaporate at the end, and it's said, well, you've been coached and basically you know, so it's complicated and so on. So I think that for all future initiatives of this type, it's really important to have funding entities, banks, different private finance entities sign up and be very explicit what their expectations and requirements are, so that when you get to that stage where the business plans are done and everything is clear, there isn't a feeling of disappointment. Okay, so I think that is a key aspect, and I think that everything that can be done to link between entrepreneurs and European entities. I mean, we often think about things at government level, but you can perfectly well have a supermarket chain in Europe, or a retail outlet that is keen to identify with the story about helping perhaps female entrepreneurs develop a particular product somewhere. So I think there's a lot that can be done in identity, in the storytelling aspect of business, which add value to the product for European consumers. And retail outlets are aware of that. So I think the linkage can be also between individual retail outlets in Europe and groups, cooperative. I'll say that in French if I can very quickly. Madabo m'a demandé quelle était la conclusion par rapport aux différents concours d'entrepreneurs en Afrique en liaison avec des Européens auxquels j'ai participé. Ce que je dis, c'est qu'il me semble que ce qu'il faut remédier dans le futur, c'est surtout que l'accès aux finances soit très explicite dès le départ. Que les institutions financières, des banques, des fonds d'investissement participent dès le départ en explicitant leurs requis et leurs attentes pour que les entrepreneurs, une fois qu'ils ont été coachés, accompagnés, qu'ils ont leur business plan, puissent effectivement correspondre aux requis et pouvoir lever des finances facilement.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Patience, do you have anything else to add on my question to Jonathan?
Okay, yeah, the thing is, okay, when we want to organize, say, a competition where our intention is to link Europe or Africa or individual businesses, when we put the criteria, we should really think through very well what will be the end game, or what will these entrepreneurs benefit participating in this program. Because any event, just the time taken to listen or to participate, prepare slides, these are not just easy or you get up in the morning and just do. These are things that people really put effort and time into it. So it should be very clear from the beginning what they will gain by doing this. And again, if they fulfill all the criteria, you said they do this, they should do, they did everything. Then when you promise them something, then you should be able to deliver. So you think through your requirements very well. Try to see the people that are on board, those who want to sponsor you or give maybe any rewards to this company. And also, if you promise them that when they participate, then you will link them directly to the financial service provider, then you should be able to do that as well. So just like keeping to our promise, that is what ensures trust. And that is really the first criteria when you want to do business and to ensure a profit. People need to trust you.
Absolutely.
No, thank you. But you know why I've asked this question is because when I first met Jonathan and yourself, it was at an entrepreneurial competition environment. And for me, there is value in such competitions. But as you guys are saying, you need to make a promise that you will deliver. It's important. You know, and I think this is my thinking, and I'm just going to drop it with you guys. We're trying, I'm sure we're all aware that we're trying to create an ecosystem that is self-sustaining. There are people that you are saying if they are ready to attend training, you've got training on skills or how to export and import from Africa. That course, if it gets given to individuals, it's one thing training people. Then they sit afterwards, they're trained, so what, then what? But if they are trained with, I think, adding such competitions as part of this, and having some structures in the EU that are saying if these people meet the criteria, they're trained, they've got the product, they've got everything, they can be linked for not necessarily money every time. Money is not the factor every time, but can that person or those individuals overnight or after the process be able to deal or export into Africa? Some of them, they've got the normal, the what you born with as a business acumen, but they just need to be shaped. And your course or your training patients should be able to complete that process. But what after being trained, can they deal with Africa? Will they have access to market? Those are the type of things that I'm talking about. So it's something that maybe you guys must look at.
Okay, so let me just dive into that quickly. So the training program we designed to begin with, Euro-Africa Link is not a non-governmental organization. We are a profit for making organization. The sales, the connection that we do, we get a fee out of it. So designing this program also, we had to go through some courses paid at the university to be able to help us shape to design these courses. So we don't give these courses for free. You have to pay, and it depends also on the package that you want. Some people have already been exporting to Europe before. So in that case, it will have to make a tailored package. Maybe you just want to look for buyers. Then in that case, we will train you only on that particular model.
Okay.
Yes, and then some people really want to start it from the beginning to make a product fit, for example. So all the criterias that you need to be able to design a perfect product specification, the regulations, how to present it, how to send samples, all those details. These are something that we will teach you and show you how to do it as well. So teaching is one thing, but then how to implement it, we also come in, because when we teach you, some people will pay us to be able to implement what we taught them to do. So that is then also where we come to. So this is how our training program, it is per package, and we teach you from the very beginning how to design your product. We start with people that already have a product, because other people, they come to us, they said, we have this idea in our head and we want to start producing, say, avocado. Where do we start from there? That one is a whole different story. But then, of course, we can still assist you with that. But then what we do at the moment is with people who already have a product and they want to export abroad. We help them with the training, with the requirements that is
No,
to be able to do that.
it's fine. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to play a jingle for the last time, then we can come back. Jonathan can say his last parting shot. I'm sure he will leave us with wisdomly advice before he leaves us. Wow, time flies. We are left with a few minutes of the program. Jonathan, in closing,
Yes.
what do you want to leave us with? Give us some wisdom in the entrepreneurial space. Give us some wisdom, and we will always miss. So we'll always miss that wisdom, so that you basically going to push us to invite you back again. You know.
Okay, it's very kind. I think one of the things I wanted to say, and I'll say now, is that the young African entrepreneurs shouldn't be just obsessed with how to meet the requirements of the world market, the European Union, of all the rest. They should resource themselves in their own national culture. there's a huge appetite in Europe and North America for understanding cultures that come from Africa. The contribution of Africans to music, to food, to dance, to all kinds of domains like this are well known. One of the things that I'm aware of that we've seen during this period of uncertainty about what is medical truth during COVID is that there's an increasing interest in traditional medicine. And so I think there's an opportunity not just for agricultures, but for people who know the forest, who know the plants that grow there, and who know traditional remedies and so on, to consider developing a business with that. Obviously, that will need to combine traditional wisdom in Africa with scientific knowledge. But I think increasingly true that synthesizing chemical compounds to make medicines in Europe may not be the only way, that there are many, many plants throughout the world that have great medicine qualities and can be developed and exploited. So that was just a kind of a parting shot to say that it's important not just to adapt to the world outside, but to really reappropriate your own culture and your traditions, understand what your grandparents know, because that has got great value. There's great interest in the diversity of mankind and of knowledge in those areas.
Thank you very much. Highly appreciate. Thank you. Thank you. Patience, anything in 1 minute?
I just want to thank you all and for inviting me. And it was really an honor to just listen to you, Jonathan. You make me just so happy and very proud of all what you're doing, especially for the African continent.
Well,
thank you.
Patience, there's lots of things we can do. There's much we can do together. And thank you very much for inviting me, and look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Keep well, keep safe, stay healthy.
Okay.
Until we meet.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.